Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at the Hockey Canada funding freeze that just went through by the Minister of Sport, Pascal St-Onge. And I wanted to see what the reporting is from a couple of these outlets, and then another one from a more local outlet to see how exactly this is being reported and how it's being talked about. And then we can form an opinion on this and give a little bit of a analysis towards the end. So we're going to start with this one from City News. This was just released today. Hockey Canada has been completely defunded by the federal government amid sexual assault allegations and an investigation. So let's go ahead and watch this and see what happened.
The news about the funding freeze comes just days after two of Hockey Canada's highest-ranking officials testified before the Standing Committee on Canadian Heritage about their actions around June 2018 sexual assault allegations. They can't name the players involved because the victim does not want to identify herself or the players. Scott Smith, president of Hockey Canada, said the organization has dealt with separate assault allegations against players in recent years. Smith also denied there was a cover-up, saying Hockey Canada notified police, calling a third-party investigation, and offered support to the alleged victim. Nothing has been proven in court. Now, Canada's Minister of Sport says, "I cannot accept this standard as business as usual in our national sport organizations, and Canadians should not either. I am suspending any further federal funding to Hockey Canada until they meet two conditions. They must disclose their recommendations of improvement, and they must become signatories to the Office of the Sports Integrity Commissioner."
There are some numbers that Hockey Canada is eager to share with the public, like the 385,000 registered players across the country. But when it comes to more sensitive figures, like revenues and taxpayer funding, it divulges few, if any, details. Financial statements obtained by CBC News pull back that veil, showing that Hockey Canada received $14 million from Ottawa in the past two fiscal years, including $3.4 million in emergency COVID wage and rent subsidies, helping the not-for-profit organization to a $13.5 million budget surplus last year, adding to a war chest of stocks, bonds, and cash now worth more than $153 million.
Okay, I love hockey, and I think it's important that national organizations are able to sustain themselves. And I have no problem with Hockey Canada receiving funding from the federal government, or even during the COVID pandemic, if the money was needed to pay for supports and wages and staff and all that kind of stuff. But if they're showing a surplus of 13.5, and they took 14 million in total funding and an additional 3.4 in pandemic support, and you end up with a surplus at the end of the year, that's a little bit sketch. But I understand that sometimes you apply for it thinking you'll need it, and then you don't need it, and then obviously you're a federally regulated organization, so you're going to just hold on to that money because otherwise it's going to be really hard to get it again in the future. So I don't blame Hockey Canada for this. I generally blame the government for their lack of interest until it becomes an issue. And that seems to be a common theme with this Liberal government in particular, is that they don't really pay attention to something until it's become such a problem that people are getting upset about it.
$4 million in emergency COVID wage and rent subsidies, helping the not-for-profit organization to a $13.5 million budget surplus last year, adding to a war chest of stocks, bonds, and cash now worth more than $153 million.
Hockey Canada is worth $153 million. That is a lot of money, but at the end of the day, it's a national organization that handles all of hockey operations in Canada. That seems completely reasonable.
While paying no income tax.
Should nonprofits that are effectively pseudo-government agencies be regulated like businesses? Probably. I don't know enough about that, though, to really make an opinion on it. I would say that not paying income taxes for Hockey Canada is probably a bad thing. They probably should be paying income taxes. That's just my opinion. And that's not a really strong opinion either, but that's just kind of like, my gut tells me that they probably should be paying some sort of income taxes, especially if they're running a surplus and if they're running a valuation of over $100 million. I feel like maybe there's a level at which nonprofits now do have to pay income taxes. Maybe we just have to figure out what those numbers are. I don't know.
Outrage over the alleged 2018 sexual assault by players who attended a Hockey Canada gala in London, Ontario, is driving Monday's hearings, as well as a federal audit of the organization's books. Hockey Canada didn't respond to a CBC News request for an interview or to written questions about its finances. This expert on sport and public policy says Canadians deserve more transparency from those who run the national game.
They owe an account, a reporting of what happened, and in the light of the parliamentary inquiry, an account of how that settlement was paid out.
Jennifer speaking.
Jennifer Dunn heads the Abused Women's Centre in London. She says there was already ample evidence that hockey's culture needs to change.
There's like a locker room mentality where it's almost as if these young guys are essentially brought up with no value for a woman's life.
And while
boys, get your shit together. I think that as far as what Hockey Canada has done, they should account for everything that they've done. They should account for any book errors, we'll call them. And they should account for all of these things to the public because they're being publicly funded. Now, as far as the sexual assault allegations are concerned, is that enough to take away Hockey Canada's federal funding? Probably.
Dunn understands the focus on public funds, there's another number she wants people to keep in mind.
Every 17 minutes in Canada, a woman is sexually assaulted. Hockey Canada needs to pay attention to that.
There will be an element of
every 17 minutes. Holy shit, dude. I knew it was common. I didn't know it was that common. Guys, and I know it's not always guys, but let's be honest here. It's like probably 90-ish% dudes. So dudes, fucking cut it out. Fucking cut it out. Unacceptable.
to theater to tomorrow's hearings, because the likely answer about where the settlement money came from is on plain display. There are references to sexual misconduct liability insurance in Hockey Canada's annual reports, a pricey hedge according to financial statements. The organization pays more than $9 million for all types of insurance each and every year. Jonathan Gatehouse, CBC News, Toronto.
Okay, so the claim is from CBC. The claim is effectively that Hockey Canada took money from the federal government for COVID relief and through regular funding. They then used that money to spend it on insurance to protect the organization against potential lawsuit. Now, if that is the case, and that is why the Liberal sport minister decided to cut funding, I agree with that. If it is more or less than that, then the calculation changes a little. But if we take what they're saying as fact, and we're going to read through this Terrance Standard article as well to see if there's any additional information. But if we're looking at this situation and going, Hockey Canada got money from the federal government, Hockey Canada ran a surplus last year, and Hockey Canada used that same money to pay out a settlement for sexual assault while not actually changing anything at the organization. Therefore, their funding should be cut. I agree. Hey everybody, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like, and you can check out my Patreon on the side here if you wish to support me moving forward. Until next time, guys, have yourselves a fantastic day. Peace.